5:30 p.m. and it's family time.
Yes, listeners, welcome to Family Time. Good evening. Now, family time is about your issues and your relationships. It's about your at home family, your community family, and your global family. Family time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families, which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. That's Facebook. You can friend us on Facebook at simply FLM Family Life Ministries, or you may subscribe to our YouTube channel at Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram. Keep up with what's happening at simply FLMJA. While Family Time is a family program, we'd like to caution that it may, on odd occasion, touch on what some may consider to be mature subject matters. Your discretion is advised. I'm Crystal Daly Thompson. Now, stress is unavoidable. We can never escape stress. But chronic stress can take a serious toll on your body and on your mind. So the key is to not reach the stage where it takes its toll on your body and mind. And today we're going to discuss these strategies for managing stress and discover why mental health is just as important as physical health. Do the two connect and how? What are the signs that we're heading into the chronic stress zone? Join us as we look at the topic stress and your health, finding balance in a fast paced world. We also want to answer your questions about stress, but here is ours to you. What is your secret to combating chronic stress? Send your answers via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876 997 3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. And you can also call our studio lines at 876 968 8327 or 876 968 8328. You can also watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM Facebook as we're streaming live there and Love 101 FM YouTube. Get your questions ready for our special guest today, who is Sonia Winter. All right, so stay tuned, get your questions ready. This is Family Time. I'm Crystal Daly. We'll be right back.
On the next episode of The Mailbox, we'll be focusing on the Great Exchange. A great exchange can represent the trade of worldly desires for spiritual growth and a deeper relationship with God. It can symbolize the exchange of doubt for faith, trust, and conviction. You are invited to join the conversation with Minister Paul Blake as he shares his journey from the Bloodfire Posse to Bloodwash Servant of God. The Mailbox is brought to you by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fosrich Company Limited. That's Wednesday, April 30 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station Love 101. The Mailbox, Monday.
Up like a storm, anointed from him born. Which part of the man of God gone when you.
Yes, welcome back, listeners. This is Family Time, and I'm your host, Crystal Daly Thompson. Now, we are going to discuss stress and its impact on our health with our special guest, Sonia Winter. And of course, Sonia is no stranger to Family Time, and Lady Sonia is an associate clinical psychologist and founder of Tea House Therapy. Welcome, Sonia. We're excited to hear how you are going to tell us to manage with stress, right?
Greetings.
Right. So, listeners, we want to remind you that we want to hear your answers to the question What is your secret to combating chronic stress? You can WhatsApp, text, and voice notes to 876-997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes to no longer than 30 seconds. Send your answers to our WhatsApp number or your voice notes, as we mentioned, to 876-997-3125. Again, try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. You may call the studio lines at 968-8327 or 968-8328. And you can watch us and comment live on our Love 101 FM Facebook and Love 101 FM YouTube channels. So we want to get right into it. Stress and your health. Finding balance in a fast paced world. That's our topic today. These days, life moves fast. There is work, bills, family needs, and unexpected problems that just pop up all the time. And while a little stress can push us to get things done, too much stress day after day can quietly hurt our bodies and our minds. So, we're talking about what stress really does to us, how it affects not just individuals, but families, and how we can all work together to manage it better. So, again, we have our clinical psychologists here with us, Sonia Winter, and she's going to help us unpack this. So, my first question to kick it off, when we talk about stress, what are we really talking about? Is it just a feeling, a worried feeling? Oh boy, I'm fretting because I'm wondering if I'm going to meet my bill, my payment for my bills, or is it just something happening inside of our bodies because of just general external factors? We want to really pin it down so we know when we're truly stressed.
Okay. Hi, Crystal.
Yes.
It is something happening in our body as well. So it's not just a mental reaction that we're having to what's happening around us. It's also a physical reaction in our body, not only
Yes.
in our body from the neck down, but also in our minds from the head up. So
Mm,
in other words, our brain is picking up a sense of threat that things are could be possibly overwhelming to us, and so as a result, our brain is telling our body to release certain chemicals, stress hormones, as we know them very well, the adrenaline and cortisol. So that's actually something
yes.
happening. We're releasing those hormones. That's one thing that's happening. Then because of those hormones, our heart rate speeds up dramatically, so that we can run fast in case it's a physical threat, and fight
Right.
our way out in case it's a physical threat. But also our muscles tense up, our pupils dilate, get really tight, our mouth can become dry, our chest can become tight, we'll feel a huge knot in our stomach.
Mm,
There are a lot of physical actions taking place in our body because of the release of those hormones. It's like a chain reaction, you know
yes.
and it's really preparing us to try and tackle the challenge that's in front of us. So it's not only the feeling of worry and anxiety, but there are a lot of physical things happening inside our body at the same time.
Yes, I'm happy that you use the word anxiety. There is this trending thing going around now where everybody's talking about anxiety, my anxiety. Do you think stress is caused by anxiety or your anxiousness brings on stress?
Mm. I guess it's a chicken and egg situation,
Yes.
but ultimately the first trigger is really a perception of stress that then
Mhm.
makes, so the stress may be real or perceived, but it's
Yes.
usually the stressor is the trigger, and then you then feel anxious inside, but I mean, what might make one person feel anxious might not make the other person feel anxious, so it often starts with some trigger, um, and we each have different triggers that can activate feelings of anxiety and worry and that sort of a thing.
Yes. So is there a different category for stress, different types of stress?
Hmm.
Because you can be so stressed that you are motivated to accomplish some things, executives would say, I'm stressed with this proposal, I'm stressed with so and so, and they get things done. Is it that that kind of stress is different from another type of stress? And
Hmm.
how do we differentiate?
Okay, sure. There's some forms of stress, it's called eustress, that can improve our performance.
Repeat that for me.
Eustress,
Use
EUSTRESS.
EUSTRESS.
Yes, right. And it's
Eustress.
when you have just enough stress to improve your performance. So, for example, believe it or not, the sports psychologists, for example, what they actually do is get athletes to activate just enough stress so that they are able to perform at their best. Because remember what is happening, stress, those physical reactions that we just described a while ago, they're really preparing your body to take on a huge challenge. So when we are prepared at just the right level in those
Yes.
situations, stress can really help us. I'm sure many of us have had an exam, for example, and it's like the day before, suddenly you're reading like you never read before, you're remembering the things like you never remembered the last 2 months of studying. And that is stress at work that can be helpful to you sometimes. But
Okay.
then there's
When does it become dangerous though?
right. It's when stress becomes dangerous when, number one, it's persisting for too long. So people who live in an environment where that stress is protracted, and so they're always producing these stress hormones over a long period of time, that's when it becomes known as chronic stress, and that's when it can damage your health, your heart, your immune system, and your mental health ultimately.
Okay. So you talk about the bad stress, the chronic stress happening over and over. So there is a consistent flow of adrenaline, a consistent production of cortisol in the body then, and for our listeners, cortisol is the stress hormone, and
Yes.
adrenaline, you said, right?
Yes.
So because we want the listeners to learn, because this is the first I'm hearing about eustress.
Yes.
So we're going to have to look that up a little bit more. So when someone has too much stress over time, what are some challenges they might notice in their body?
Okay, the first thing that you're going to notice, for example, is you may have frequent headaches, because one of the things that adrenaline does is it increases your heart rate. So if that is going on for too long, that will eventually, there's a lot more blood flowing in through in the capillaries and veins in your brain and in your skull. So over time, you might find yourself having frequent headaches. One of the things that happens too is the constant production of adrenaline and cortisol, and there's another chemical called norepinephrine that can affect the digestive juices that are produced in your stomach. So as a result, you start to notice stomach issues. You're producing the digestive enzymes in your stomach when there's no food in there, for example, or it's not producing enough when there is food in there, because adrenaline and cortisol over a long period of time can affect the production of other chemicals. And so when the chemicals in your stomach and in your gut are affected, that's when you get ulcers, because quite often you're producing these digestive enzymes, etc. And in a situation where there's not necessarily any, you're just frightened. It's not that you have food to be digested. So that those digestive enzymes can break down the walls of the stomach and cause, irritable bowel syndrome and so on. So you'll start to notice stomach issues as a result as well.
So can we say, when Jamaicans speak about nervous stomach, is that what they're referring to?
Exactly what's happening, for sure. But also what happens is, Crystal, is that when you're frightened, I don't know if you ever noticed, when you're frightened, sometimes you feel like your stomach leap, like when you drive over a bump in the road or something, and you feel your stomach leap.
Yes.
What is happening then actually also is that the blood pressure in your entire gut, and your gut runs from your mouth right down to your anus, your digestive tract, as it were.
Yes.
The blood pressure when you're frightened, the blood pressure in your digestive tract drops dramatically, so that the blood pressure in your arms and legs can go up. Okay, right? So, if you think of it, all your blood circulation as one system. So the blood pressure in your arms is going up, but the pressure in your digestive tract drops. And it's when that pressure drops that you feel your stomach leaping, as it were. That feeling that you have sometimes.
Yes, man. Yes, man. Some people say my belly button dropping
Drop
out.
out, exactly.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, so that
Yes.
is where, when you have what we call an acute stressor, like you hear a gunshot, or you hear something sudden and your stomach drops. That's because of a drop in blood pressure. But with chronic stress now, where it's continuous, these hormones continually being produced, that is now because your digestive enzymes are being produced and affecting your stomach over
All
time.
right.
Mhm.
Awesome. I want you to hold that because we want to talk about how how stress can lead to illness. So we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and unpack that, Sonia, because the mind and the body certainly does connect based on what we're understanding here. Listeners, this is Family Time. Stay tuned. We're going to a break.
When you say Fosrich, you say electrical, SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say Fosrich, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say Fosrich, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Fosrich is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Fosrich.
Keep your career options open for local and overseas job opportunities in the booming hospitality and tourism industry with City and Guilds and ABE endorsed certification at Distinction College. Start online and face-to-face classes very soon in a career of high demand for workers globally, and get certified in housekeeping, food preparation, waitering, travel, tourism, and hospitality, bartending and mixology, customer service, call center, cake baking and decorating, airline ticketing. No subjects required, no age limit. Register this week and get an additional course for free. Call Distinction College at 876-356-4167 or 354-8560. Visit us in Kingston, Spanish Town, Ocho Rios online or St. Elizabeth.
CC Winans brings her More Than This tour to Jamaica, joined by Chevelle Franklin, Kevin Downswell, Prince Sar, Jean-Marc Wigan, MCs IT and Nadine Blair. Tickets are going fast. General 6,000, VIP 20,000, VIP 32,000. Limited time offer now. Get your tickets at select locations island-wide or online at SpurOpen.com. Follow at More Than This Jamaica on Instagram for more details. CC Winans, More Than This, King's House, East Lawns, Friday, August 1. Are you ready?
Yes, listeners, welcome back to Family Time. We're talking about stress and your health, finding balance in a fast paced world. This is Family Time on Love 101 FM. And of course, we're talking to Sonia Winter, clinical psychologist. Now, we were talking about the mind body connection and how stress can affect, how your body responds. And of course, we want to unpack that, stress can cause sickness in the body,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So you spoke about headaches, you spoke about bowel issues, nervous stomach, as some of us would understand it to be. So it means now that our stomachs are more acidic, and all of that. But how does the mind truly affect the body?
Okay. So what happens is that your mind is what picks up that there is stress happening to you. Your mind is what says, something, I may not have a paycheck at the end of the month. Your mind is what says, my relationship is failing. That's stressful. I can't,
Yes.
I can't get through, this big challenge. So once your mind picks up that there's any kind of threat, any kind of major stressor around, it then directs your body to release those hormones that we spoke about. Okay.
Okay.
And once those hormones are produced over a long period of time, that's what now weakens your immune system, makes it harder to fight off infection, because as I said, those two hormones in particular, adrenaline and cortisol, they're designed to just for us to get just a little shot of them, as it were. We get out of the stressful situation and then we continue with our life. But what happens to so many of us human beings is that we're living in the situation and of stress. And sometimes even when we're not in in a stressful situation, our mind is taking us to stress in the future. And we,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
and so we're thinking about something stressful that's going to come.
Mhm.
And so we're still producing those hormones, you know, or we're
Yes.
remembering something stressful in the past. And so we were producing those hormones. And so over a period of time, those hormones can really damage our immune system. They can, because they increase your heart rate. They can cause high blood pressure because they damage your stomach. We
Yes.
start with irritable bowel syndrome, etc.
Yes.
And many other diseases because of the work of these hormones over time on your body.
So
So
how
that,
about the brain? I've noticed that a lot of elderly persons, late 50s into 60s, a lot of cases about Alzheimer's and dementia. Do you
Mhm,
think prolonged stress has
mhm.
caused that?
I think this studies do not indicate a direct link between stress and dementia as yet.
Okay.
I know that certainly sleep has been, disrupted sleep, and people whose somatic cycle, their cycle of sleep is kind of out of sync with daylight, etc. So there's a higher incidence of dementia, for example, with people who have to work on shift
Okay.
systems, and their sleep is disrupted, and also nutrition as well. Is
So lack of sleep can make you predisposed to dementia.
Yes, that's one of the preliminary findings that has been associated with dementia. Not a direct connection necessarily, not that I'm aware of, between stress and dementia.
Okay. How does stress affect things like blood pressure or even make it hard to fall asleep at night?
Okay. So because when you feel stressed, your body produces the adrenaline and the cortisol. The first thing that adrenaline does is that it causes the muscles of your heart to contract much faster, thereby increasing your blood rate and your blood pressure. So, Crystal, you can imagine over time, if you're always producing adrenaline, your heart rate is always increased, it's always above normal,
Mhm.
and as a result, that is what results that you just always have this elevated blood pressure, and thus high blood pressure. And then also the thing about stress, is that it's almost like the longer you exist in stress, it's the harder for your body to reset and stop the production of adrenaline and cortisol. It's almost like you just get into a habit. And cortisol is almost addictive as well. You're just always producing it. So you can imagine you're always producing these hormones. So as a result, your heart rate, for example, will always be elevated. And thus, that's how stress directly links um, with high blood pressure.
So what about the people now who you have some people they are very stressed, but they will never let the world know. So they act like everything is going on fine and so on. So what are the dangers of pretending that everything is okay, but you are overwhelmed and stressed out?
Well, the problem of pretending is that stress will always seep through. So, what will happen is that you're stressed and it's affecting your performance in some way, So, ultimately, you might find that you're a little bit more irritable. You also remember, Crystal, if you're not acknowledging that there's stress in your life, then all of these physiological things we just discussed are happening inside your body, and you're not tending to it because you're pretending that everything is okay. But the breakdown that's happening inside your body
Yeah.
is happening nonetheless, and because you're not facing it, you're not getting help to deal with it, and so as a result, you're not your body's just breaking down. And then once that's happening, your performance in other, what we call other domains of your life, is also going to be affected. So you will find your relationships are suffering, your performance at work or school is not what it should be, because your body, you're just not coping very well, so the thing about pretending is that you're not confronting that you have a problem, and so the problem is taking root and destroying a number of different systems, not only in your external world, but on the inside of your body as well.
Okay. So you spoke about stress affecting the immune system. But how does stress affect or um, what should I say now? Well, I'm not a doctor, but does stress can stress cause diabetes?
Oh, definitely. Yes, for sure.
How so?
So you know that how we metabolize sugar and complex, sugars, as it were, um,
Yes.
is through the production of insulin.
Mhm.
and and that is a chemical has to be produced in just the right amount of quantities, you know what I mean, in order to break down the sugar that we're ingesting, um to break it down properly, so that we can use it, and it can be assimilated into our bodies to give us energy. But if we're constantly producing adrenaline and cortisol, that undermines our pancreas's ability to produce insulin in the quantities that we need it to, And then once your insulin production is not what it should be, that you're looking down the barrel of that diabetes for that
Oh,
reason.
wow, wow. Very insightful, very insightful, because one would think that that has nothing to do with your blood sugar levels.
It
But
also,
mhm,
also stress
yeah.
can also, for similar reason, lead to things like arthritis and different types of inflammation as well. Because
Mm,
if you think about it, here's how I think about it to simplify it in my own mind. Once, if you think of your blood vessels as a tube, right? And the pressure of the blood passing through that tube is higher than it ought to be. The blood passing through the veins is therefore eroding the inner lining of your blood vessels and your capillaries, right? And
yes,
so the more you're eroding the lining of those blood vessels, you realize that it's almost like that area is going to become engorged with blood, as it were. Okay, because
yes,
the lining has broken down, so it's taking more volume of blood than it should be. And that's essentially the anatomy of inflammation, where you have too much blood gathered in a particular area where it shouldn't be. That's inflammation for you. And that's essentially what arthritis and other inflammatory diseases are about.
yeah, yeah. I can just see everything just lining up, one thing after another. You can't sleep, your blood pressure is high, your blood is pumping heavily in your veins. It's
Absolutely.
a lot of things happening when you are stressed, my God.
Mhm.
Now, how does stress affect the entire family? If one person is stressed, how does that affect everyone else?
Okay, because stress also, guess what, affects the production of other hormones as well. Like in women's cases, there are certain hormones that help manage mood.
Yeah.
Estrogen and progesterone are directly related to managing mood, and the same for men as well. So for that reason, you find that you'll be more irritable, for example, because you don't have, you're not, your body isn't managing your moods as well as it typically is, not to mention all the thoughts that you're having of anxiety. You feel so overwhelmed sometimes and uncertain that makes you irritable. It's like one more thing to deal with your partner or your family and so on. And
Yeah.
so, you'll find that many people, and yeah, I mean, I speak for myself, and you'll realize it in all of us. When you're really stressed, you're more irritable. You tend to withdraw a lot more, kind of isolate. You're not sleeping well. That makes you more irritable as well, and all of that causes difficulties in relating to the people that you care about. You're
Yes.
just not coping. Your physical body not coping, and your emotional body not coping. Then it's very hard to connect. It's hard to sympathize and empathize. It's hard to be patient. All the things that build relationships, very hard to do when you're really stressed.
Thank you so much for that. The time is now 6 p.m. Listeners, you've been listening to us here on Love 101 FM, listening to us here on our show, Family Time, as we unpack how stress affects our lives and our health.
CC Winans brings her more than this tour to Jamaica, joined by Chevelle Franklin, Kevin Downswell, Prince Sarge, Jean-Marc Wigan, MCs IT and Nadine Blair. Tickets are going fast. General 6,000, VIP 20,000, VIP 32,000. Limited time offer now. Get your tickets at select locations island-wide or online at sparopen.com. Follow at More Than This Jamaica on Instagram for more details. CC Winans, More Than This, King's House, East Lawns, Friday, August 1. Are you ready?
When you say phosphorus, you say electrical. SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say phosphorus, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say phosphorus, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Phosphorus is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Phosphorus.
I'm Itana, and human trafficking is everybody's business. Call 1-888-PROTECT to report suspected cases of child trafficking.
The time by the Ministry of National Security is
Yes, welcome back, listeners. Indeed, the time is 6:01. You're tuned to Love 101. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. FLM provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Before we continue our discussion on our topic, stress and your health, finding balance in a fast-paced world, let's get a word from Reverend Mike in this episode of Word to Flesh Moments with Reverend Mike.
Stress can be caused by outside stimuli, often called external stressors. Examples of external stressors include major life changes such as moving, getting married, job loss, demanding deadlines, a toxic work environment, the death of a loved one, bullying at school, social isolation, or relationship problems can all trigger a stress response in your body. The human body responds to stress with symptoms such as nervousness, irritability, frustration, worry, headaches, insomnia, loss of appetite, or overeating, fatigue, or low energy. The outcome of prolonged exposure to external stresses can result in negative and detrimental effects to one's physical and mental health, including increased risk of chronic diseases and depression, which in turn can lead to self-harm. Philippians 4:6-7 declares, "Be anxious for nothing, but in prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." The Bible suggests that instead of giving in to stress, believers should turn to God, crying out to Him in prayer, petition, and thanksgiving. It further suggests that the positive outcome will be peace, His peace, which surpasses all understanding. So which will you choose today? Will you keep giving into your stressors, or will you turn to God, your Savior, to help you overcome your stressors? I'm Reverend Mike from Fellowship Tabernacle, and we just had a WTF moment.
Excellent. Thanks, Reverend Mike. We really do appreciate those very solid points. I hope, listeners, you are taking note of that too. Take your stress to the Lord. Cast your cares upon Him, for He cares for you. So we're going to welcome back our guest, Sonia Winter, Associate Clinical Psychologist, as she helps us to unpack the topic. Now, the good news is we can manage stress. It can be managed, right? So we're not going to let it run away with us, right, Sonia? We're not going to let it run away with us. We're going to manage it so that we can get our health back in balance. It doesn't mean we'll have a perfect life, right? But there are simple things we can all do to take better care of ourselves and each other. So my first question as we go into this other segment of the discussion, when someone is feeling overwhelmed, what's one thing they can do right away to feel calmer?
Mm. One of the first things that can actually activate, bring down your heart rate and reverse that stress system, that stress response, is to
Yes.
take a huge deep breath. Okay, because that starts the process of slowing down your heart rate and almost reversing that cycle of stress that has been activated by these hormones that we spoke about earlier. So sometimes we can't even catch our breath. Sometimes I just tell people, if you can't take a deep breath, just blow hard, like as hard as you can, and like your
Yeah.
lungs will just pop back open almost after that breath. So that's the first thing that you can do, and it's almost like it settles your mind for you to think through what is it that you need in this situation, and then you can take step two, which for some people is many, can be many different things.
Right. So it sometimes it's really just going back to basics, to the simple things like your 8 hours of sleep. Go to bed.
Mhm.
You know, there
Sure.
are different things that I'm learning about, that supplements and so on that persons can take. Your chamomile tea, your ashwagandha.
Mhm.
Have a good meal, right? Right,
For
Sonia?
sure.
Have a good
Exactly.
meal, fresh air.
Mm.
Sometimes people like to lock away in their homes, or just, in the office to the car and then home.
For sure.
Fresh air, right? How important though are these things? The fresh air, the good meal, the sleeping, or how important are these things to truly manage your stress?
They're very important, particularly over time. I mean, in the moment of stress where you have a sudden stressor that's hitting you, in order for you to collect your thoughts and respond properly, a deep breath can help. But if we're talking about chronic stress over time, we really want to be sure we're taking care of our bodies, the temple, because that's
Yes,
what's really going to help us through it. So things like eating properly, right? That can really help in terms of supporting our body, for example, renewing our immune system.
yes,
Eating healthily can really help to undo some of the damage that adrenaline, long-term adrenaline, can cause. Exercise similarly can really strengthen different organs, different structures of your body, so that
yes,
it's better able to be resilient against the adrenaline and cortisol. Also, too, exercise um, helps to produce other hormones that can counteract dopamine and so on, that can counteract the effects of adrenaline. Same thing with sleeping. You do produce um, um, melatonin, etc., that can help you, that can counteract that. Number one, it does two things: produces hormones that can counteract the effect of adrenaline and cortisol, but also helps in the sleep is the best way to rebuild cells that have been damaged and so on, rebuild and restore certain
yes,
and generate new cell growth and so on, is best done during rest and recuperating, sleeping. So those are how those three things, they call those the big three, diet, exercise, and rest and sleep, can really help fortify your body, to counteract the effects that adrenaline, long-term adrenaline and cortisol can cause.
you know we know that families are very powerful. Families are the first agent of socialization for any one of us.
Mhm.
That's when we first learn how to share, how to be kind, how to be loving. How can family members work together to create a calm environment for
Mm. Mhm. Well, I would say, just being able to create time, quiet time together, where, you can enjoy a positive experience together, where you can feel encouraged, where you can feel a sense of belonging. A sense of belonging is so powerful in just helping you to feel safe, and those are important feelings to have, that can kind of restore your belief in yourself, that you can handle the stress, that can undo the damage of the constant adrenaline production. Because, being with family, and to the extent you feel safe, you feel
yes,
connected, you feel a sense of belonging in that family, that can really restore your sense of, okay, I can handle whatever is coming my way, because I'm not alone. Um, so often when we're experiencing stress has a way of making us feel isolated and alone, like we're the only person going through this, like we're just the one that um just bad lucky or just assault, we can just feel like it's nobody will understand what we're going through. And just that feeling alone adds to stress, because we're social animals. We don't deal with being isolated alone isolated and alone very well.
Yes, yes,
Loneliness is a
yes.
stressful feeling to have. So that's what the family can undo, that sense of isolation, and cultivate that sense of belonging and safety that can really help to counteract the effects of stress.
Yes, what I loved about how you started with answering that was to say create quiet times together. So I'm thinking of I'm envisioning a home with there are a lot of persons living in a home, and they know this is quiet time. Everybody gets their moment to not watch TV and talk to anybody. This is a couple hours of rest, right? Apart from
Absolutely.
sleeping time.
Yes,
But we
yes.
also hear a lot about prayer and music, even laughter being healing in Caribbean families. How do these things really help with stress?
Again, all of those things help with a sense of connection, Crystal. So you don't feel like I'm in this alone and so I'm going to perish.
Right.
Prayer has a wonderful ability to make us feel connected to the Almighty, and that alone can restore a sense of hope that we can handle that which is coming at us. And of course, the more you do it in a group of like-minded that share that same sense of dependency on the Almighty, and can you see it as a source of hope, then
Yes.
that can go a long way in terms of counteracting the isolation and the feeling of inadequacy that stress can bring on.
Yes.
Music can be very calming just in and of itself. You know what I mean? Certain kinds of music, other kinds of music can be very agitating, but
Right.
certain kinds of music, can be very calming. It's almost like it has, I keep reducing us to animals, but like mammals, they respond very well to cooing and humming, for example. And similarly, music has that way of just calming you, and like a lulling you almost into
Yeah.
a sense of safety and peace.
What advice would you give to somebody who feels that they're doing a lot, and I don't have any time to do my hair and to take care of myself? What kind of advice would you give to such a person who feels that they have to neglect themselves as they go
Mm.
through?
You know what I often say? It's almost like you have a long marathon to run, but you're saying you don't have any time to take a drink of water to prepare you for the marathon. You're
Yes.
only going to go so far. So there has to be a point where you prioritize taking that drink of water if you want to finish the marathon strong. And that's what I would say with self-care,
Yes, yes,
that
yes.
ultimately it will pay you huge dividends. You'll get some economies from it. You're able to go further better if you can just stop for a moment and look to yourself and
And
take
take
care of
care of
yourself.
yourself. Indeed. So, listeners, we're heading into our final break. This is Family Time live on Love 101 FM, YouTube, and Facebook. It's produced by Family Life Ministries. For our feedback question, please answer this: what is your secret to combating chronic stress? Send your answers via WhatsApp, text, and voice notes to 876 997 3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. Send your answers to, well, you can WhatsApp and voice notes to 876 997 3125. Try to keep it very, very short. Also, you can call our studio lines at 968-8327 or 968-8328, or comment live on the Love 101 Facebook or YouTube platforms. All right, so we are up on the break. We will be right back, and we'd like to hear from you. So remember, share those questions and voice notes.
CC Winans brings her More Than This tour to Jamaica, joined by Chevelle Franklin, Kevin Downswell, Prince Sarge, Jean-Mark Wiccan, MCs IT and Nadine Blair. Tickets are going fast. General 6,000, VIP 20,000, VIP 32,000. Limited time offer now. Get your tickets at select locations island-wide or online at sparopen.com. Follow at More Than This Jamaica on Instagram for more details. CC Winans, More Than This, King's House, East Lawns, Friday, August 1. Are you ready?
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Welcome back. The time is now 6:16. You are tuned to Love 101. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. Family Life Ministries produces counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Remember, you can tune in to the program via the Love 101 Facebook page and YouTube channel. The topic today is stress and your health, finding balance in a fast-paced world. Our special guest and or specialist, of course, she is a clinical psychologist, is Sonia Winter. Managing stress isn't about being perfect. It's about making little changes that add up and supporting each other along the way. So we're heading into our final segment now, Sonia. And we have some other questions here that we're hoping would help our listeners to treat with themselves better and to help their families cope with stress. So, how can families create simple routines like meals together, walks, or check ins that help lower everyone's stress?
Okay, so that's a great suggestion. Very simple things like short routines, even things that are kind of repetitive and dependable, eating dinner together.
Yeah.
Some families have this lovely little habit of everybody share one high and one low of the day, taking a 10-minute walk together. All of that, what it does, and to the extent it's kind of reliable, we're going to do it most of the time, and I know that my family is waiting for me to do it, can really create a sense of connection, and just
Yes.
that connection, the sense that my favorite word is that sense of belonging. I belong somewhere, I am sheltered and protected somewhere, can reduce the tension and really create a sense of stability in the face of stressful storms.
Okay. What role do churches, community groups, and neighborhoods play in helping people to manage stress?
Similarly, all of these offer a sense of belonging, churches, faith groups, community centers, neighborhoods, all of them can provide a sense of connection that gives emotional support. And then also, there's just practical and logistical help sometimes when you don't know where to turn or what to do, quite
Yeah.
often, there is support available, logistical support available, and a kind of reminder again that you're not facing these things alone.
Yes, yes, yes. So if someone feels stuck and overwhelmed all the time, when should they reach out to a doctor or a counselor if they feel overwhelmed?
hmm I would say once the telltale signs is if stress is interfering with your sleep,
Mhm.
interfering, meaning by that I mean you're sleeping a lot more than you used to, or you're not sleeping very well, or you're having difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, um, then also if it's affecting your appetite as well, eating more than usual or a lot less than usual, you're
Mm.
noticing health changes in your health, constant colds and so on, aches and pains. Also, if you're just not being able to carry out your work or school responsibilities very well, That's
Wow.
telling you that, you probably need help. And then, of course, the big one is your relationships. If your relationships are suffering because you're always so stressed and irritable or fatigued and tired, then you probably could benefit from getting some support. Sometimes you just feel so exhausted and always worried and sad, overwhelmed, then you probably could benefit from getting some support, and it could make a big difference.
Indeed. We have a voice note from Matilda Wainwright of Sandy Bay, Hanover. Let's hear what Matilda has to say.
Good evening. I'm very, very grateful for this program. I thank you and I say keep up your good work. Very
Awesome.
informative, life saving. Thanks again.
All right. Excellent. All right. So, Sonia, your clinical skills here, persons are very grateful for the advice, of course, that you're giving us today. Now, sometimes just having someone listen makes a difference, right?
Mhm.
And I know you would champion the need for therapy. How can family members support each other without always trying to fix everything?
Mm. It's so funny. That's so often we show our love for our family members, trying to fix things for them,
Oh my.
particularly stressful situations. Um, but sometimes it's not a fix that our loved ones need. They just need to be listened to and understood sometimes. And also, what's important too is to wait until they tell you what they need. If they
Mm,
need advice, they might say, I don't know what to do. What's your advice? But until they say that, no sense offering unsolicited advice, particularly if it's young adults or adults, in the family. Practicing listening just to empathize and understand, not necessarily solve the problem, can be the best support that your loved ones can benefit from.
yes.
Just a
I'm,
communication that I'm here for you. You tell me
yeah.
what you need.
I'm thinking about persons who, when they hear of some of the situations that their family members are going through and they love them so much, but then they're not in a position to help, that also makes the other family members stressed. So,
Absolutely.
what
It does.
recommendation would you give for such a person?
Hmm. I
You
guess
want
what
to
I
help, but you can't.
Yeah, what I would say, I simply have to reiterate, that, if yes, it's true. When somebody that you care about is stressed and you can't help them, you will feel stressed as well. And so it would be going back to basics that we discussed earlier to deal with your own stress as a result. You know what I mean? Fixing it may help, but most often it won't. Fixing it for the other person, sometimes, people, have to figure things out on their own, and they just want a listening ear. So if that is stressing you, just to watch them in pain sometimes, then I would say go back to basics. You're taking care of yourself, monitoring your sleep, taking time for yourself, going for a walk, doing your devotions, connecting with others,
Yes.
etc., to handle your own stress levels.
Yes, yes, yes. I like how you emphasize the doing the devotions there, because when you can find help nowhere, of course, we have to take it to the Lord in prayer. What are some signs that a family is doing well at managing stress, even if life isn't perfect, even if
Mhm.
they don't have all the money and everything that they would want? What are
Mhm.
some signs that they're handling stress well?
Well, it's when they can have enjoyable times together, when they can laugh together, when they're sharing openly with each other, they share burdens, when they have disagreements, but they can recover from the disagreements without it kind of bleeding over into bitterness and resentment. Um, so it's when you see a family and they're facing the stressors together that you know that they're doing well versus not having any stress at all, as it were. Um, it's when there's still a sense of allegiance, everybody's allies, helping each other through difficult times, that the family is doing well.
Excellent. And as it is, we're heading into our final question as we look forward to the end of the show, as we're heading there. What's one word of hope you'd leave for anyone who feels like life's pressures are too much right now?
I would say there's no single storm that lasts forever.
Yeah.
Something will change, and help is real. Healing is always, possible, and even a small step can make a difference. So it's very important never to try your best not to give up, or to ensure that there's someone who can keep hope going even when you have lost hope. A small step can make a big difference.
Awesome. Thank you so very much, Sonia, for sharing with us. Of course, you are the founder of Tea House Therapy Limited, clinical psychologist, everyone. You have been hearing how to handle stress as per her expertise. If you have any questions of a personal nature or are concerned about a friend or family member, call us. For more information on our services or for our counselors in Kingston and other parts of the island, contact our head office at 876 920 1034 or 876 926 8101. Note that for appointments and information on costs, you must call the offices. Otherwise, to keep up to date with what's happening with FLM and our programs, check us out on our new Facebook page at FLM Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram at simply FLMJA. Before we leave you, here's our verse for this evening, and it's taken from 1 Timothy 6, verse 6. But godliness with contentment is great gain. All right. And we are heading up to 6:30, but we have a comment from Gladys, and she says, "Good afternoon, ladies. This is a very interesting program. I was like that sometime ago. I was like that sometimes ago, but thank God things are different." Oh, awesome, awesome, Gladys. We're happy that you found a way to handle your anxieties and your stress. We're trusting that persons will take note to go back to basics, take a walk. If you cannot handle it, you take it to the Lord. You have to manage and know that, your health comes first, your well being comes first, because it makes no sense stressing about things knowing that you're affecting your health, and that's an additional stress to think about medical bills and just to complicate matters. There are situations that may arise that will affect other family members if you continue down this path of overwhelming yourself, because you can develop various types of diseases. We heard about irritable bowel syndrome, we heard about having hypertension, stress affecting diabetes, stress making you predisposed to dementia, among other things. So we encourage you, listeners, pray, trust the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding. Join us again next week for another informative program. Thanks again to our special guest, Sonia Winter. Thanks also to our show producer, Kathy Gale. Thanks to Derval Graham for piloting us through this hour. And of course, you, our faithful listeners. Thank you so much. This is Family Time.